It was almost midnight when Jake, a single dad from Ohio, stopped his old pickup truck near a dark alley. He thought he heard someone crying for help. When he looked closer, he saw a young woman being cornered by two men, one of them already trying to grab her. Without a second thought, Jake jumped out of his truck and ran toward them. What happened next not only changed the woman's life, but Jake's too. Because that night, a simple act of kindness from a broke single father would spark a chain of events that no one could have ever imagined. Hey everyone, welcome to your channel name, where real stories about kindness, hope, and humanity come to life. If this story touches your heart, make sure to end below about what kindness means to you. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories like this one. Now, let's get into today's story. Jake Thompson was 34, a mechanic, and a single father to an 8-year-old girl named Lily. Life hadn't been kind to him lately. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a long illness, leaving Jake to raise their daughter alone. He worked long hours at a small auto shop during the day and did delivery runs at night just to keep food on the table. Still, no matter how tired he was, he always made time to read Lily a bedtime story. She was his world, his reason to keep going. That night, Jake had just finished his last delivery shift. He was exhausted, hungry, and ready to crash into bed when he heard that faint cry for help. Most people would have kept driving. But not Jake. He couldn't ignore someone in trouble, not when he'd once promised his late wife that he'd always try to make the world a little better for Lily. He pulled over, grabbed the flashlight from his truck, and ran toward the noised eye in the corner of that alley. Under a flickering streetlight, he saw a woman clearly drunk, her makeup smudged, her dress torn at the sleeve, struggling against two men. Jake's blood boiled. "Hey! Leave her alone," he shouted to the men. Turned, surprised, but when they saw Jake coming at them, they didn't want to risk it. Maybe it was the anger in his voice, or the wrench he was holding from his truck. Whatever it was, they backed off and ran. The woman collapsed to the ground, shaking. Jake knelt beside her. "Ma'am, you okay?" he asked softly. She looked up at him with glassy eyes. I don't know where I am," she slurred. "My purse, it's gone." Jake helped her to his truck. "You're safe now," he said gently. "Let's get you home." She was too drunk to remember her address, so Jake took her to a nearby diner that was open all night. He got her some coffee and water while she sobered up. The waitress, seeing the situation, gave him a look, the kind that says you're a good man. After about an hour, the woman managed to tell him her name, Emily Carter. When she finally found her phone in her jacket pocket, she called a driver to take her home. Before leaving, she looked at Jake and said quietly, "You didn't have to help me, but you did." "Thank you." Jake just smiled. "Take care of yourself, all right?" Then he left, thinking he'd never see her again. A few days passed, and life went back to its usual rhythm for Jake. Fixing cars, making lunches for Lily, helping her with homework. He didn't think about that night much, but one morning, when he got to work, his boss called him into the office. Jake thought maybe he was in trouble for being late once again after dropping Lily at school. Instead, his boss handed him an envelope. "Jake," he said, "someone came by asking about you. Said you helped her last week. She left this." Inside was a letter and a check for $25,000. Jake's heart stopped. He stared at the name on the check, Emily Carter. The letter read to Jake couldn't believe it. He'd saved her without even knowing she was one of the wealthiest women in the city. He didn't know what to do. At first, he thought of returning the money. It felt too much. But then he thought of Lily, of the medical bills he still owed for his late wife, and how hard he'd been struggling to pay rent. He decided to keep it, not as a reward, but as a reminder that sometimes good things come when you least expect them. But the story didn't end there. A few weeks later, Jake received a call from Emily herself. She wanted to meet him and thank him properly. When they met at a small cafe, Emily looked different, calmer, warmer, more down to earth. She told him that night had been her breaking point. For years, she'd been chasing success, ignoring her health, her friends, and her happiness. That night, after an argument at a corporate event, she'd turned to drinking. "If you hadn't shown up," she said, her voice trembling, "I don't know what would have happened to me." Jake just smiled humbly. Anyone would have done the same. But Emily shook her head. "No, Jake. Most people wouldn't. You didn't know who I was. You just helped because it was the right thing to do." Then she surprised him again. She offered him a new job. Emily had recently launched a community program at her company called Carter Cares, designed to help struggling families find employment and stability. She wanted Jake to help lead the local outreach, using his story as an example of real kindness. Jake was stunned. "I'm no manager, ma'am. I fix cars." Emily smiled. "You fix more than cars, Jake. You fix people's faith in goodness." With her encouragement, Jake accepted. It wasn't just a better paying job, it gave him purpose. He could help others the way he'd helped her.